Hello everyone. We'll be continuing our examination of the Biology Theory 201 course in preparation for your public exam review with a discussion of the brain. The brain is identified as having three main parts. These parts being the cerebrum, cerebellum, and brain stem. Each of these regions are responsible for controlling specific functions. To begin with, the cerebrum is where all the information from our senses are sorted and interpreted. Voluntary muscles that control movement and control speech are stimulated from this part of the brain. It is in this region of the brain that our memories are stored, where our decisions are made. The brain, the cerebrum, is the center of human consciousness, and it is what separates us from every other animal on the planet. Our cerebrums are very well developed, and this is something that no other species can say, certainly not to the extent that ours are. In terms of our overall structure, the cerebrum is divided into two hemispheres, left and right, and four lobes. These lobes being frontal, parietal, occipital, and temporal. To try and draw it out, if I were to draw the brain from above, it would look similar to this here. Again, I'll apologize for the artwork, but there are two distinct heads, left and right, which are joined by a body, a structure, known as the corpus callosum. From the side, the brain will be consisting of looking something like this, the cerebrum. It will be divided into four lobes. Again, this is the front of the head, this is the back of the head. The four lobes being the frontal lobe. The frontal lobe controls our speech. It controls our function of our muscles. There's the temporal lobe, which is outlined here, which is located more or less above the ear. And the temporal lobe functions in terms of hearing. The frontal lobe for speech. The parietal lobe, which I'll outline here in green. The parietal lobe has as its primary function, it's our area where we actually have controlling of speech, controlling of taste, controlling of reading and interpretation. And the occipital lobe, in blue, at the back of the head, functions in terms of vision. This would give us a total of 8 lobes. Each side of the brain, each hemisphere has a frontal, a temporal, a parietal, and occipital. And the brain has 2 hemispheres. The cerebellum, on the other hand, it's responsible for controlling muscle coordination. 50% of the brain's neurons are contained here, but yet only 10% of the brain's volume. The cerebellum controls balance. It retains muscle memory. That's why as we get older we don't have to think about certain things because they are controlled by the cerebellum. The medulla oblongata, medulla, is attached to the spinal cord at the base of the brain, and it has a number of functions, all of which are related to a particular structure. The cardiac center controls heart rate and the force that contracts the heart. The vasomotor center adjusts blood pressure. The respiratory center controls rate and depth of breathing. The medulla also contains reflex centers for hiccuping, vomiting, coughing, and swallowing. If this part of the brain is damaged, it usually results in a fatality because of the importance of these involuntary structures, these involuntary functions. The thalamus is a sensory relay center. It receives information such as touch, pain, heat, cold, as well as information from the muscles. Mild sensations get relayed to the appropriate part of the cerebrum. That's the conscious part of the brain. Granted, if the sensation is strong, the thalamus will trigger a more immediate reaction while transferring the sensation to the homeostatic control center, that being the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus, on the other hand, is a complex bundle of tissue that acts as the main control center for the autonomic nervous system. It allows the brain, it allows the body to respond to external threats by sending impulses to various organs through the sympathetic nervous system. After the threat is passed, it reestablishes homeostasis by stimulating the parasympathetic nervous system. Other parts of the brain include the midbrain, which is a piece of brainstem between the cerebrum and the pons. It's involved in sight and hearing. The pons contains axons, nerve cells, that link the cerebellum and the rest of the central nervous system. It works in concert with the medulla to regulate breathing, and it has reflex centers involved in head movement. Bridging the gap between the two hemispheres is the corpus callosum. It, as I just mentioned, connects the left and right hemispheres of the brain. So to summarize, the parts of the brain are as follows. We can clearly see the cerebrum, as I'm outlining here in green. The cerebellum, located at the back of the brain, which I'm highlighting here in blue. The thalamus, as I'm outlining here, this blue section here in the center of the brain. The pons, the medulla oblongata, comprise the brainstem, which makes up the midbrain. Damage to this area, as I previously mentioned, will prove fatal because of the involuntary function that comprises part of it. The corpus callosum would stretch between the two hemispheres and join them. So some samples of questions you can see from this section would be as follows. This question asks, which structure, if damaged, would result in the heart stopping? Your choices are A, B, C, and D. A is the cerebrum. The cerebrum, while a very important part of the brain, controls thought and processing of information. C, the corpus callosum, controls communication of information between the left and right hemispheres. D, the cerebellum, controls balance, controls coordination. The correct answer is B. It is pointing to the midbrain. It is pointing to the pons. And the pons, damage to it would certainly cause an interruption and result in the heart stopping beating. So the answer indeed is B. This second question, again, taken from an old public exam. Which structure in the diagram below controls balance and muscle coordination? A, the cerebrum. C, the corpus callosum. B, the pons. And D, the cerebellum. The correct answer would be D, the cerebellum. It is the cerebellum which controls involuntary balance. It controls muscle coordination. This question here asks the exact same question without the aid of a diagram. The answer would indeed be the cerebellum. And lastly, which structure directly controls a person's ability to think about a question and answer correctly? D, the cerebellum. C, the pons. B, and A. A is pointing to the cerebrum. And it is the cerebrum which controls your ability to think and process information. Thank you very much. I hope you learned something from watching this video.